Michael, quick update on Dan Ballard. I know you said after the game he'd be fine. I'm assuming everything's okay with it.
Yeah, we'll train tomorrow, and if there's no issues, then he'll be available. Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other issues?
No, Elliot Embleton will play in the B team tomorrow night, 45 minutes. So it's good to see Elliot back, and then after that he will be available for selection, which is really positive. Paddy's had a few more days into him, and obviously Romain as well. Callum Stiles is back out jogging and stuff now. We'll probably rejoin the group middle of next week, all going to plan.
I was going to ask you about Elliot. You spoke about him the other week and what an asset he can be to you. It will be pretty much like you having another signing in the window, won't it?
Yeah, it will do. I think we've got to respect the fact he's missed a lot of football as well and give him a chance. So let's see how tomorrow night's 45 minutes go. There's one thing training with the group. There's another thing getting your bearings on a big pitch again and your lungs opening out and burning a little bit in terms of getting your second win. So they're all the things that Elliot's got to go through. But in terms of the training, I've seen a player that's really could add something to the team. You know, he's a local boy as well, and he knows what it means to play for our team.
I mean, you said the other week how you've been around talking to all the players. I mean, you'd have spoken to Elliot, and he's a player, I think, that just, he's like a young kid, just wants to kick a football, doesn't he? Just wants to play. Yeah,
I think the last few months have been really, really frustrating for him, and we feel that obviously we know his body here, like our staff know his body. We know him as a boy as well with the staff inside, so it was important that he stayed here. You know, where are we now? We're in, you know, the second week in Feb, so you know there's not a lot of the season to go, but the most important thing is that Elliot stays fit now and then can get rhythm back in his football, because I think he's a player that does better with rhythm. Most players are, you know, like when you're playing and you get a rhythm, and we know the technical ability he can bring to the group, that's for sure.
Have you had a sense of where he is mentally? Because he's had some wretched luck over the last few years.
Yeah, he's in a good place right now, and I think that's it. That's what I'm probably explaining, that we want to keep him in a good place, and that means keeping him here with the staff that know him and the medical staff and Scotty and the sports psychologists, sports science staff who know him. I think that's really important to help him make sure that he stays fit now and can go on a run, because it's a difficult life for any football player that's not able to play. And I think Elliot really wants to make up for lost time.
And the other player I think has been a big miss this season, Corey Evans. I know you've spoken about him a few times over the last few weeks and his progress. How far away is Corey from getting back to actually playing?
He's still a little way off at the moment, so he's been out, and when you have the injury that he's had, there's always going to be small complications, because if you've been out for a while, there'll be little nags and niggles in different areas, so he's a little bit behind Elliot, if I'm honest.
Do you get the sense that he's been a big miss for the team in terms of his experience? And I know you've not been here long, but when Corey was playing, that you could certainly sense that he was one of those players that was able to calm things down, lend that experience when things were maybe going against you?
I think mentors in the changing room when it's such a young group is something that you can add. Don't get me wrong, a young group does have no fear and it's vibrant and lively, but I think one or two mentors in the changing room are important. It's hard to be that if you're not playing. Do you know what I mean? You can do that around the training ground, but it's hard to be that when you're not in the changing room on match day and you're around it. So we've certainly missed that. You don't play as many games as an international and be club captain if you don't have something about you in terms of that. So we can't replace what he hasn't, what we don't have with him. But obviously I would say someone like Luke O'Nine's really stepped up in that period as well, and has been a bit of a leader in the dressing room also. But certainly when Corey's ready to come back, it will be an asset to the group.
I mean, you've talked about the new players coming in, and you've got a busy period coming up from next week with the 2 games a week. Is it important now that you've got those players in, and also you spoke last week about Chris Rigg and how we might see a lot more of him?
We had 18 outfield fit players today, so that's the squad, isn't it, at the weekend? So that's how tight we are really on the group. Caden Kelly come into the squad last week because he's been doing particularly well in the B team. There's other players who are itching for an opportunity to come up as well. We have got 3 games in the next week or so, but so does everybody else. So it's not like we're playing teams that are not fresh. I think everyone's got it, and it's an exciting time for our young squad. These games in front of us, there's a big opportunity for us. Let's just take them one game at a time. But if I'm someone who's not in the starting lineup, I need to be pushing the guys that are. And having Paddy back and Romain, it gives us a little bit more in the final third as well. Mason and Nazir have scored in the last couple of games. Semedo scored in the B team midweek, and Adil got an assist. So in that sense, the people are pushing each other, and that's what you want.
Watching Rusin when he came on at Borough, he's a little terrier, isn't he? And he scored again. Is he at the moment uppermost in your sort of you've got your three? Is he number one at the moment of the three that's likely to feature?
In the front three, he is right in my thoughts to play across the front three. As I say, I think he's a bit of a hybrid. He's not just a number 9. It would be unfair of me to say that Naz is just a number 9 because he likes to pull wide, he likes to dribble, his movement down the side, his energy is really good. In this next 3 games, you're certainly going to be seeing Rusin playing. Yeah.
Plymouth, I'm sure you were elated when you watched it go to extra time on Tuesday, Wednesday night, and the pouring rain and the weather and the fact they got a long journey.
Yeah, I think so. But look, new manager's gone in. I think they've done really well. They're a dangerous team. They score a lot of goals, certainly at home. I thought over the 2 games with Leeds, if you look at the 2 90 minutes, they obviously did well against Leeds over that. And for whatever reason, the game slipped away from them late on. I think it'll be a tough challenge. I think we're at that stage of the season now where everyone's playing for something. Championship's one of those leagues where you get caught in either one end of the table or the other. So there's always a reason. And I think we're going to have to be at our best again, and certainly if Plymouth come and come after us, there'll be more space, but we're mindful that they might not do that. They might come and sit in. That will give us different problems because I think their front three are, and I know a couple of their front three really well. I know that they're dangerous as well if we leave spaces, so it's another really good game. Are
you very mindful of this issue about teams sitting in, because it has been a problem for Sunderland, not just this season, last season, that Sunderland do find it very difficult at home to break some teams down, and you know, all credit to them, they come, I suppose, to show you respect, to try and take a point from games, but it's become, you know, something that I think everybody's tried to find a way of finding a way through, if you like.
I think the best teams in the world that spend millions and millions find that difficult. Is the hardest thing when a team put 10 players close to their goal, if you like, or 8 or 9 players back. It's hard to always get through. What we've shown as a team that we can go over, around and through teams, and certainly against Stoke when we had bigger space, you could see how dangerous we were, and it's important when the other team attack that we can take it off them and launch our counter-attacks quickly as well. But if we solve that, there ain't a lot more for us to solve, is there? Because that's the one thing that all good teams face. If you're a possession team, you're going to face teams that are sat in. But I think we have the right type of players in the building, with Paddy back and Abdullah's in good form, and Pat and Romain in wide areas. We have people that can outplay 1v1. There's certainly been a focus on us crossing the ball more. Now we need to make sure we're getting people in there, because I suppose my big frustration and the team's big frustration in the changing room at the weekend was we got into really good areas against Middlesbrough, and from those areas, did we have enough making the box, or did we have enough actually just looking to get where you score goals, which is inside the 6-yard box? Because there was a couple of moments where balls get flashed across and we should score in those moments. So that's something that we're working on, but as I say, the best teams in the world also find that difficult, so it's not a problem just for Sunderland.
Do you get a sense now with the squad that you've got, I know it's a tight squad, that you've got a bench that you can change the game if needs be? Because there's always been an accusation, if you like, thrown at coaches that you've got no plan B, but do you think now with the players that you've got on the bench, you have got a plan B?
That's a new accusation that's thrown at me. You just thrown one at me there, Nick. No, listen, I think that the bench has to bring variety to the team on the pitch, doesn't it? And sometimes there's a balance between trusting your players that you picked in the starting lineup. Certainly if you're a forward player, you know, if you're a forward player and you're always thinking after 60 minutes he's going to take me off, yes, you have to play well to stay on, but there's an element of coach-player trust and relationship, and if you trust someone to play, that you have to get that balance right. But certainly from your bench you need variation, and I think we're getting to the stage now, which I've not had for too many of the games, where there's more variation, with Romain coming in, Paddy getting fit again, Mason's now scored, Adil's got an assist, Semedo scored, so they're telling me in the B team game, come on, play me, you know, I'm here. Riggy being around the group, and certainly now we feel like we've got more to offer. Callum will come back into it next week as well. That's a real positive place. If you think of the performances Jensen's put in, he was probably hard done by last week, but I thought Leo come in and played particularly well, so hopefully that's a real positive sign for the group and the team in the coming weeks.
Last one for me. I mean, you mentioned Jensen there. He can probably feel a little bit hard done by, because he has been, you know, he did play very well against Stoke, and he's out the team. But I guess that's the dilemma you're always going to have when you've got fit players. Someone's going to have to miss out.
I think balance is really important to any team. Certainly, you posed me the challenge or the question there that what teams sit in. Well, then balance is really important, that you can go round and hit crosses. I thought he helped us, and he played very well for a number of games. But it's fair to say Trey is a better right back, only by 10%, but he's certainly a better right back than left back in my opinion. And there's going to be a couple of suspensions in the post, I think, with centre backs, and it's important that Jensen will get an opportunity in there and show us what he can do. I've been delighted with him, to be honest, and I was delighted with Leo last week, so that's a good place for us to be in.
Thank you. Michael, with all the positives that you mentioned and beating Stoke and a good point against Middlesbrough, do you feel things are settling down for you personally as well?
Yeah, I've always been really pleased with the players in terms of the work. I think this is a big week. I think we have to stay really focused. When you're going into last week's game, it's 3 out of the next 4 away from home. So you go to Middlesbrough last week, there were some positives in the performance, there were some areas we'd like to improve. I think that was clear for everyone to see, but it was a good point. How good a point will determine at the end of the season. We have a really good home game this weekend, and then 2 away games again. So I don't think there's any time for us to breathe or feel settled or anything. I think these next 3 performances, by the end of this, the look on my face will probably tell a million things.
You mentioned Patrick Roberts, he obviously came back last week. Does that give teams more to think about in that it's not just Jack Clark on one flank? I know obviously Abdullah's been on, but having Paddy Roberts, who maybe hasn't been as productive as last year, but just having him there gives teams more to think about?
Yeah, I think so, because I think we know what Paddy can do. He can eliminate the first player. What we've got to do after that is make sure, the same with Jack as well, that once we outplay that first defender, that we get the rewards of it, whether it be a shot, a cross, more people in the box. I think Abdullah as well is his favoured position would be slightly inside the pitch, Abdullah. So that maybe gives us an option to play all 3 and remain. I thought he had an excellent 60 minutes for the B team earlier in the week, and he's trained really well the last 2 days. So Romain is right in the front of my thoughts as well. So we've got good variety, which is fantastic.
And talk about Elliot Embleton, one of the few players who was here when the Netflix series was filmed. He scored at Wembley. Have you seen it? Are you looking forward to watching it?
Yeah, I watched the original 2 series. It was interesting. I think what you saw is what the club means to the local community and the fans. That just jumped out at everybody. And then there were some interesting moments at the club at that time, wasn't there, with different bits and bobs. And I think I'm fascinated by those sort of documentaries to get behind it. I'm quite pleased I'm not involved in this new series, and maybe the focus will go on some of the other staff in the building over the coming weeks. So I think this series captures a really important time for the club with promotion as well, and some changes. So I'm looking forward, like everybody else, to watching it. And certainly now I know some of the people behind the scenes, it will be good. But in terms of Elliot's journey at the club, we don't have enough of those maybe in the building that have been on the journey and seen the development of the team and the club in the last 2 years. And so Luke's one that has, and Elliot's certainly another one. And I think that experience is really important for new players coming in the building. I went for dinner with the 3 new signings last night to talk to them about how they've settled in the club and the differences from our club to the others. But it's really important that the players also induct the players into the club. The way, the culture of the club, the way we behave here, the way we train, the standards. They're things that our club in this area is so important to the fans. If a fan come in and spoke to those players, we need to have 1 or 2 people in the building that speak like that as well. I think the passion for the club and what it means to people.
Michael, you mentioned before that against Middlesbrough you certainly had moments in that game where you perhaps should have done better, but for other parts Middlesbrough certainly carried a large threat during it as well. So reflecting on it sort of a week later, was a point perhaps something that you're happy with at this point? I know you mentioned before as well you might look at that differently later, but at this point in time.
Well, if you win your home games, it's a good point away from home, but actually we have to go away from home and win more than when we have won. So there's always a frustration there. We didn't go to Middlesbrough looking for a point. I think we showed that in the first half for whatever reason. We spoke about in-house some of the reasons, but it will remain there. We didn't start the second half well. they started the second half and started winning the duels, and they scored off a deflection that falls for their guy. It's a great finish, but obviously on our part, it's not something we're pleased with. Our reaction was good. If you go away to Middlesbrough and you only give up 2 shots on target in your goal, you're certainly disappointed if you didn't get something from the game. So I think that's it. As much as they had a 30-minute period in the second half where they were stronger than us, it didn't lead to Pato having to make big saves. But certainly when we recover the ball, we have to play a bit quicker, we have to make less errors, that's clear. And then when we get up the pitch, so in the last 10 minutes, I think we had 2 or 3 opportunities where if people really gamble and run through the goal, we're winning that game, because you could feel the momentum in the stadium completely change. You could feel it in the energy in our team compared to maybe theirs. You could feel it in how anxious their fans were and how our fans were up. And in that moment, we're going to have to win a couple of these tight away games if we're going to get the points that we need.
Given how tight and competitive the league is at this stage of the season, does every game now have a bit of an extra edge to it, given that for you, at least, and several of the teams around you, there is something riding on? As you mentioned before, the playoffs are very much in reach for yourselves and plenty of others.
Yeah, I think the games are massive. You can't call the league. Like last week, there was some results that you wouldn't have been able to call before it. This weekend's the same, and all we can do is do our job and try and get as many points as possible, take one game at a time. Plymouth will give us a different challenge to Huddersfield and Birmingham for sure. Huddersfield may have a new manager by then. You know, Birmingham have had a new manager, so we're having to look and see what these teams are doing. Plymouth have only had a new manager the last 5 or 6 games, and so it's intriguing league. And the most important thing for us is that we put the maximum effort and focus into every game. Every game won't be perfect, because the Championship's not a league like that. There's moments in the game where you have to suffer and work hard for each other. There's other moments where we'll be dominant, and when we're dominant, we have to take our chances. You know, we can all think of games this season before I come. I can think of 3 or 4 games since I've been here that the first big chance in the game fell our way, and we haven't always taken it, and that's so important. Like, we can't have many more games where we miss big opportunities. The players know that, you know, that we know that we have to be more decisive in the big moments.
Jeff mentioned there about the Sunderland Till I Die series, and sort of you've seen what the club means around here. What have you enjoyed the most about being at Sunderland so far?
We have a really vibrant young group with a lot of ambition, and so, you know, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of positivity in this building. You know, you think we're a young team, we come in, a lot of these players have got high hopes for the future. To managing them, getting to know them, getting to know the staff has been fantastic, I have to say. And then I think we have the stadium which sells the most seats in the league, and we have the biggest away following, so every time we play it's a special day, and I think that's what you put across to this young group. But I can't get over really in words enough to people that when you come in a building you've got 25 young players that have got a burning ambition for the future. That's such a positive environment to walk into every day, so it's important that we remember that and keep working, because I think this is a special club and we're lucky to be here.